and welcome to my Brain Health Cooking Kitchen. I'm Diana Liz, and I'm a functional medicine health coach and a Daniel Amen brain health coach, a neurotech working in a clinic doing neurofeedback, and I'm a woman determined to beat Alzheimer's. It has taken many members of my family, and I carry the APOE4 gene. I'm lucky that I only carry one of them, which reduces my risk. But what I do here helps me reduce my risk. Genetics loads the gun, but our lifestyle pulls the trigger. And when I change how I eat, I have control over what happens to me. At least that's the theory. Anyway, today we've got cod bundles with mushroom ragout. And this is a pretty good recipe without any tweaks. But there's a couple of things that we need to take into consideration. And the first one is mercury. Cod is not in the top rank of the least amount of mercury. There are 4 categories, and it's in the second category. And this is not, you can look these up, and there's the National Resource Defense Council, and there's the Environmental Working Group, and both of those organizations, and there are others that monitor the mercury in our environment and in our food. So I looked for substitutes because when something is could be better in a recipe, I look for alternatives for substitutes. And I considered lingcod, which is recommended in the recipe that I'm following. Lingcod has more mercury. It's in the 3rd category. It's in the moderately high category. So I took that off the list. I also considered Atlantic haddock, but it's in the endangered list. And there are some give and takes. Cod has a mild, clean taste. It's a very mild fish. And haddock has a more flavorful, fishy taste that many people don't like that much, including myself. However, the difference between cod and haddock is more about shape, texture than taste. And you can notice that the cod fillets got a nice little thickness to them, and they have a very nice flaky taste, and they're more forgiving when you're cooking. It's very easy to overcook fish, and the cod helps in that regard. I also consider tilapia, but tilapia doesn't have very much mercury, which is great, but it doesn't have very much omega-3. It has 10 times less mercury than wild salmon. And I take that back, I got that wrong. It has 10 times less omega-3 than salmon. And the reason that we eat fish is for the oily omega-3. And if it doesn't have that, then why are we eating it? And not only does it not have very much omega-3, it has a lot of omega-6. And omega-3 helps get rid of inflammation. Omega-6 can cause inflammation. So we don't need to cause inflammation in our body. So tilapia was off the list. And I made a decision that I would eat cod, but I would only eat it twice a month, like every other week. The National Defense, the National Resource Defense Council says that we can eat, and the Environmental Protection Agency say that we can eat cod about 6 times a month without any adverse effects. But when you have cognitive issues, if you've got any kind of health issues, then if you're pregnant, if you're breastfeeding, you don't need to ingest any more mercury. So I don't, even though some of the EPA might says that it's okay for you to eat cod when you're nursing, I think you should take it upon yourself to do some research and decide that for yourself. So the other thing that I decided to do when I eat cod is I decided that I would have some matcha. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with it, matcha is a kind of green tea, but the leaves are grown for 3 or 4 years in the shade, and we don't steep them in water. They are turned into a fine powder, and we scoop the powder and add it to we scoop the powder and add it to our water. And it is a very, very powerful antioxidant that is known to remove mercury and lead and cadmium, all heavy metals. And not only does it remove heavy metals, it also removes pesticides and drug deposits from prescriptions that maybe we've taken that are hanging around somewhere in our body. So if you're pregnant or nursing, I highly recommend that you do not do detox, because you don't need to be moving things around in your body. You don't know where they would end up. So I think that covers, oh, and a green tea has 3 times more antioxidants than matcha has 3 times more antioxidants than regular green tea, which is high in antioxidants. So it's powerful. So that, and this recipe has the cod. And when you see color, you see nutrition. And it has parsley that you see here that I will add to on top of the fillets and also into the mushrooms. And then I have rainbow Swiss chard, which once again, you see the luscious green color. And talking about mushrooms, one of my heroes is Dr. Terry Wahls, and I have talked about her. This is the Wahls protocol. And this is what she says about mushrooms. The components of the cell walls of mushrooms and these compounds stimulate natural killer cells that help balance the immune system and are protective against cancer and autoimmune diseases. So mushrooms are a sulfur-rich family, and they are very, very important in Dr. Wahls' protocol for MS. And so what I'm going to do is I have soaked the Swiss chard, and I'm going to make some bundles. Gonna leave it nice and wet. And then the directions say to just do it horizontally, but I have experimented with, one of these fell apart, oh no, with doing some vertical as well. So I put, this in here, and I am going to stir this up. And this is lemon zest and garlic and olive oil. It's got quite a bit of olive oil. And I'm going to take a little dip and I'm going to put it on here. That's good. Yeah. There we go. And then I'm going to wrap this and wrap this and wrap this. Put it in there in the middle. And then I'm going to take a toothpick and pierce it. There we go. There's one bundle. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the other one. Now, one of the things I used to do before I became a functional medicine health coach and is I would take the stems and I would throw them away. And now I know that the stems feed the probiotics in my body. And we have learned since 2008 the value of feeding our probiotics, the bacteria in our gut. Does incredible things for us, including creating neurotransmitters. So in order for them to work for us, and they work in every single part of our body, and in order for them to work for us, we need to feed them. And so I would take and look at all the nutrition I would be throwing away because I didn't know how valuable it was. So today, I do not throw the nutrition away. Also, the recipe calls for shiitake mushrooms, and shiitake mushrooms are twice the price of baby bellas. And I will occasionally indulge, and I prefer maitake mushrooms. And if you will look up my spaghetti recipe with mushrooms, I go through a long dissertation. Well, it's not very long, but I explain that nutrition has been divided by body type for thousands and thousands of years. And Western medicine has not done that for us until recently. And so I have a chart of some recommendations. So if you've had adverse experiences with mushrooms, you may want to look at that chart. It's in the description of that recipe. So it's more important, I think, to eat mushrooms frequently than it is to eat high-priced mushrooms occasionally. And if you can't afford to buy the ones that are fresh, organic, of course, then you can opt for some organic canned. And there's even some that are dried that when you soak them in water, they puff back up to life. And I've tried them and they're quite tasty and they work really well and they give us nutrition. So I'm going to heat the stove and get the recipe going. And I'll be right back in a few minutes. Well, the oil is heating up and I'm about to add the onions, but I wanted to talk about ghee. And I do not eat most dairy products because of gut permeability and mimicry of some of the proteins in the body. If they get through the intestinal wall, then they mimic estrogen. And having a foreign substance mimicking estrogen in our body is not good, and especially for women. And this may be one of the reasons why women are more prone to get Alzheimer's 3 to 1. So, but I do eat ghee because the proteins have been removed. And so I get the benefit of butter. It is expensive, but I want you to know that I don't do it every day. And so this is a treat for me. So I have added a little bit of ghee to the olive oil. The University of Barcelona and the University of Madrid have done a lot of research on whether it is safe to cook with olive oil. And if you are cooking at a low temperature, there isn't any reason why you shouldn't be able to cook with olive oil. But if you cook over 350 degrees, then I would not recommend that you cook with olive oil because its smoke point is lower than that. I think its smoke point is 290 degrees. And so if you see smoke, you see toxicity. So stop immediately. Okay, so we've added the onion and I'm going to add the mushrooms. I'm going to let that sit for just a minute. I think I have covered everything that's important for you to know. Mercury is a metal, and one of the reasons that those of us with cognitive problems are so interested in mercury is that the brain is not only chemical, it's also electric. And when there's a heavy metal in our body, the brain serves as an electric magnet and pulls the metal to our brain. So a lot of our metals end up in our brain, and that's not good for the functioning of our brain. So that's one of the reasons why we pay attention. And cod is in the second category. And so one of the things that we can do to help is to include lots of greens that are high in chlorophyll, dark greens, especially parsley. And the recipe also calls for thyme. And we can also include matcha tea along with it and reduce our risk for heavy metals in our brain. So I will continue the recipe and I'll be back with you in just a moment. Okay, before I add the chicken broth, this is natural chicken broth, and it's thick like Jell-O, and it has a lot of collagen. And as we age, we need collagen not only for our skin, but for elasticity within our body. So what I do is I buy a whole chicken every week, and I will put it in the crock pot in a very low temperature. I add leftover tops of celery. I add little butts of carrots and some onions and garlic and spices. And I cook it on the lowest setting all night long. And in the morning, I take the chicken out, take it off, debone it. And then I take the wonderful gelatin that liquid and pour it into a glass container, let it cool, put it in the refrigerator. And even though if you're eating an organic, clean vegetable animal, the chickens that I buy are organic, and it's supposedly safe for us to eat because our brain is cholesterol, and the myelination around every neuron is made from fat. So healthy fats are okay. And the latest research says that even lard is okay. I prefer not to do the lard. I prefer to do olive oil, coconut oil, and avocado oil, and I use Bulletproof to get myself into ketosis. And that will be another presentation for another day. So I'm going to add the chicken broth, heat it, and I'm going to put, once it gets really nice and hot, I'm going to put the cod bundles in it. I'm going to reduce the temperature and let it cook for 7 minutes. And I'll be right back. Well, the recipe is done, and the final step is to add omega-3 anti-inflammatory extra virgin olive oil cold pressed, and I'm going to add a whole tablespoon. I'm going to drizzle it over, and with all the delicious ingredients, it should not stand out. It should blend in beautifully. And the way it's recommended to be served is in a wide mouth bowl. And the reason for that is because you can spoon in the chicken broth that's left in the bowl. And I'm going to bring this closer to the camera and let you see how incredible this looks. And I want you to see how light and flaky the fish is. It will just fall apart with a spoon. So I'm going to taste it. And I'm going to take a little piece off the corner here. That's kind of big. The fish is not overcooked because we're using cod and it's very forgiving. It's not dry, it's very juicy. The mushrooms, onions, and charred stems are absolutely incredible. The parsley adds this wonderful flavor. And we do not need to sacrifice taste to have a healthy brain. We can enjoy delicious meals, one after another. So, bon appetit for a brighter brain.